Tony can take it away as the chair of the Finance Committee. I heard a drop off. Maybe we lost Tony.
Maybe he's done already.
He approves. He's done.
Get things done around here.
He's had enough already.
Talk about efficiency.
Joining the meeting.
Greg Genovese.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, you're good. We
Yeah,
haven't
we're
started
good.
yet.
We had Tony,
Okay.
and then I think we might have lost him. He's the chair. So
Joining the meeting.
there we go.
I must have got disconnected sometime.
Okay.
All
We're
right.
glad you're back because you are the chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tony, we're live. You can start the meeting.
Well, I'll bring the meeting to order. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Tony, we can hear you.
Okay. I went over everything. It looked good. Is there any comments from anybody?
So we'll need to do the approval of the minutes of the March 10th, 2020 meeting, Tony. So if you want to ask for a motion on those.
I asked for a motion for the March 20th meeting.
I'll make a motion. March 10. March 10th.
I'll second.
Second. Yes, second. You can't vote. I'm not a member. Hard as I
I got
die.
that.
Okay, we got Lisa and Red on the motion and the second.
All right. Very good.
Okay.
Approved.
And then the review of the 2021 proposed budget.
I'll tee this off by saying, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you. I'll just tee this off by crediting the team here with putting together our first balanced budget in draft form since 2018.
3 years now.
Yeah, 3 years ago. So with that, of course, that's a great, it's a good thing because the future is uncertain for everyone right now, including this organization. And I'd like to give Greg an opportunity to go line by line and share with you what our plans are for the year ending 12/31/2021.
Thanks,
Go ahead,
Anna.
Greg.
Okay, thanks, Tony. So I think, the budget that's presented before you is fairly self-explanatory. Hopefully, everyone had a chance to give it a quick review. Again, I'll touch on some of the highlights here. First thing obviously is the fee income. As you can see, it's really been the same amount we budgeted for the past few years, and it wasn't just because, hey, let's do the same thing as it was a year ago. We actually went through a fairly extensive exercise to go back. We actually went back 12 years, okay, in terms of our fee revenue, okay, just to see, where we think the average has been, ups and downs, and kind of trying to put some sensitivity analysis to some of those years and things like that. But, and again, the overall average, I would generally tell you, was a little over $2 million over a 12-year process. And so, from the revenue standpoint, based on, what's currently what I would say in backlog, right? Approved projects that have not yet, and what we've done historically, we felt that the continuing with the $2 million fee income revenue amount budgeted was appropriate. Even in these, what I would say, these uncertain times, we still feel that based on the backlog, we still feel that number is appropriate moving forward for 2021.
Are we allowed to ask a question, or are we waiting for Greg to finish?
I think you can ask.
Yeah.
Right.
So Greg, this is Rhett, and I was just wondering, is there any indication of what's expected between now and year end?
You know, and it's a very good question. And maybe either Rachel can chime in. But again, here's what we looked at, Rhett, because you're right. Like, you know, where are we? What do we have in the pipeline? You know, and it's really hard to predict when some of these projects will close because, you know, frankly, some are delayed for a variety of reasons.
Sure.
What I will tell you is that I believe as of the end of September, we have about $1 million of projects that have been approved that have not yet closed. And again, Rachel could probably, you know, better estimate, but do we think $1 million is going to close by the end of the year? Probably not.
Okay.
Do we think we're going to get to 80% of that? You know, that may be optimistic. We're probably looking at, of that $1 million, maybe, you know, closing $500,000, maybe a little bit more than that. And then we have some of that excess, you know, that goes into the next year. So we did look at that, Rhett, and I don't know if Rachel, if you want to comment to any of that, and if that, you know, I think that lines up to what we've been talking about.
And Greg, you did discuss, at the last meeting it was discussed, you know, what was in the pipeline. So I just wanted to get another update. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think the way that Greg described it's accurate. I think that the absolute high would be around $1 million. The low, I think, I was trying to find my email where I'd laid this out, and I was not able to pull it up quickly.
390 was your low, I would say, Rachel.
And then probably realistically somewhere in the middle. We did have a number of closings occur in September, and so I think that'll be reflected when we look at the finances in the board packet. Maybe I don't know. I haven't taken a good look at that. So there was a good amount of revenue collected in September, the beginning of October, and we know that some of the transactions that are scheduled to be on your agenda for next week are quick to close. So we did see a flurry of activity, and I expect to see that continue through year end. So I think, you know, that somewhere between 300 and $1 million, probably to split the baby, is a fair estimate of our revenue for this year.
Thank you,
Considering everything we've gone through is amazing.
Truly.
Again, in terms, so that's, and again, and feel free to ask questions as we go through some of these different, you know, pieces. I think a lot of the stuff is self-explanatory. I'm really going to try to focus on the higher level items. I believe the payroll amount is you know, based on the head count we have added in the past year, and that's reflected in the current year budget.
Greg, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So in 18 and 19, we basically, you know, under budgeted and ended up overachieving. I think if you go back even further, you'll see a lot of that just because we had some very busy years with very large projects. But in this instance, for next year, and it sounds like maybe best case is $1 million for this year, even though $2 was budgeted. So why is the thinking that we would go from where we are at this point to get anywhere near $2 million by the end of next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a couple things is obviously we don't, again, I've never been, you know, certainly the people who are involved in this process, but I'm not sure anyone has ever been in this economic position, right? Where we've ever been in a pandemic where it has totally derailed the economy for months.
Mm-hmm.
So we are, and it's a good point. Like we can't guarantee anything, but again, based on where we were, what's in the pipeline and what we've done in the past, that's where we came up with that $2 million number. Is that for certain? No, we're trying to use data to support our amounts, right? And the data shows that even if we go down or, whatever that may be. We do certainly believe with the projects that are in place, and if the pandemic loosens, we certainly believe that $2 million is an achievable amount.
And if I, Tony, if I could add
Yeah.
to that, I think we will see a pickup in projects that were delayed this year. We also have some changes in legislation that we can talk about maybe a little bit now and later that I think will cause a push of projects in 2021 to get done if some new legislation goes into effect in 22. So I do expect 2021 to be a busy year if I could predict it.
Well, that's great, considering what we've been through, but also that it's balanced. That's amazing.
Listen, and I understand, I think Ann's comment about, years past and things like that. The goal is we kind of wanted to almost go back to let's forget about what we've done in the past really and look at the data that supports those amounts and figure out obviously when you go through a budget process, you go through many iterations of that and sanity checks to ensure that you're kind of kicking the tires and all the different things. And again, as we kept on doing it, looking at data, looking at past things and talking with Rachel about the other things that are going on. We certainly felt that, having the ability to generate that revenue and, maybe scaling down in certain expenses that we could balance the budget. And that's what you see before you here today. So,
and I would like to add to that despite everything that is taking place with the economy at the local and the global levels, we do have a pipeline that we're confident will be pretty busy in 2021. Knock on wood, everyone, but we've identified some pretty big opportunities for the coming year that will help us achieve these goals, we hope.
What do you attribute the moves that were made that help balance the budget as opposed to other years?
Without naming names, I suppose, in the previous couple of budget years, the executive director had a goal of trying to reduce, really kind of trying to offload, I think, some of our revenues with concern that, and I think it's unfounded concern that the state would be taking it away from us. And that is, of course, not a risk. So it's a lack of financial stewardship due to fear. And I am attempting to take a different tack. And I would invite Rachel and others to chime in if you have any color commentary about that.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think that there was an opinion that that perhaps the state might wise up to the amount of money that certain IDAs across the state have, and the desire to spend down fund balances. And now we also have Anna and Greg taking a much harder and diligent look. You heard, Greg mentioning they went back 12 years and took a look at revenue. And I know that Greg really got involved with Anna in this process. Sorry, Greg, if I am speaking for you, where Greg was not as heavily involved in the budget in years past, despite being our CFO.
Mm-hmm. And we really appreciate Greg's constant assistance, partnership with us, and Ashley Werner on his team as well. We wouldn't have been able to pull this off.
So it's your fault that it's balanced then.
That's right. That's right.
Blame Greg.
As long as we know who to blame,
Yes.
I got it. Again, guys, and again, I know there's this, over promise, or under promise, over deliver thing. And I get all those different things, but like realistically, right? Let's just take our best realistic, look, and whether that ended up being a small deficit, a large surplus. We didn't have any like preconceived notions like we have to do this. It was more like okay, let's go through each of the buckets, right? Come up with what we think is going to happen, and that's where the numbers kind of shook out. And so I'd rather be based on the facts and information that we have today, the data that supports those positions.
I agree. Using the best estimates based on projects in the hopper and our experience, and even in light of the 100-year pandemic or whatever, made your best estimate. So I think we should go with that.
Yeah, through September, revenue's up a little over 300,000.
Yeah.
I
think that was right.
Oh, looking at the balance sheet in the board packet.
Yep.
Yeah, we had a great September. And I'll give credit to Anna for signing all the documents and my paralegal for preparing all of them.
Yeah, almost 300 and whatever, a little over $300,000 for September.
Yep.
Yeah, 304. So, the largest month to date, just happened in September. So yeah, Brad, thanks for pointing that out. And again, that may be a sign of things changing, right? Things loosening up. So again, let's move on here. And again, please continue to ask questions and things like that. This is a very good dialogue. In terms of sponsorships, a big change for us in terms of, those different things, right? Like, I think before it was a little bit, I don't know about lax, but just a little bit, there's a lot of handouts and a lot of things, and for a lot of good reasons. And I think we're just taking a little bit more cautious approach to what sponsorships that we're going to entertain this year. And Anna's working diligently, and Allison and Robin on that program and what that looks like and what the ask is and what the request is. So that's, you'll see, is a significant change from years past and what has been budgeted.
Did you take into this point? Did you take into the account that a lot of things were clawed back because of cancellations?
What do you mean by that exactly? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand.
Well, Anna, usually we would contribute to certain things, and we didn't.
Oh, correct. Yes. Well, yes. The short answer to your question is we did take that into consideration, and early on when we rolled out the emergency loan program because of COVID, we zeroed out those items, knowing that number one, the priority was to ensure public health and help keep our businesses afloat. And number two, likelihood of large gatherings not taking place in the summer months. So we're not sure what next year will have.
We have to look at, because hopefully we all hope that we're in a different place next year.
Yes, of course. I think everybody shares that.
Empower is the Ladders Up MCC program that, again, we were, I would say, halfway, maybe more than halfway, 65% of a way of a 3-year contract that ends next September. So those dollars are dollars. That $500,000 is dollars that we've already committed in the Ladders Up MCC program. And then there's some other, again, we know that there's always other programs and initiatives that comes to the organization that we certainly wanted a budget for. We didn't want to not do it, not refer back and say, oh, we don't have the money, we didn't budget for it. So we did estimate $300,000 of potential programs that are going to be put in front of the board for approval, and that is included in our budget.
Okay.
Miscellaneous expenses, again, just as a bucket, most of that's the county contract. There's really not much change from that. And again, I would say generally our overall, general and administrative expenses, consulting, legal, monitoring, accounting, finance fees, is certainly down from where it was a year ago. And we certainly are looking at that, all those different things that go into those accounts. So, like I said, overall, our expenses, our general and administrative expenses are less than they probably have ever been in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years. About $750,000 compared to $800, $900, or $900 in years past. So, or in terms of like budgets, I would say. So, and then again, overall, $2 million of
Greg, did you
top
say,
line.
Yep. When you make that statement, you're looking at the total professional fees? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I'm sorry, I was looking at total like general and administrative expenses, everything outside of like programs and community development, things like that. So, I think we're, again, in 2018, we spent over $1 billion of, professional and miscellaneous county contract and everything else. Last year was,
Did that include litigation too?
yes. Yeah.
Because I know some years that's a higher number, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not what we bought, and we haven't seen a lot of that.
Right.
We want to talk about that further with going through. The annual legal fees are somewhat reasonable when we have litigation, and there'll be a spike, but we don't generally charge a budget for that. So
yeah, it's hard to budget for that. I mean, right? Because we don't plan on that unless there's a foreseeable.
We don't know what we don't know, right?
We don't know. Unless there's a foreseeable thing that we want to reserve for or anything like that, we may consider that, but there's nothing known as of today. So again, overall, expenses in terms of general and administrative, they're pretty close and pretty tight to where they've been in years past. And I think it's the 1.933 of total expenses, less the $2 million we're budgeting for revenue produces a slight modest surplus of $69,000. So that's what we're proposing, in front of everyone and on this call today.
Then can I make a motion to pass the budget?
So moved.
Seconded.
Good job. Really good job.
Thank you all for your
Cool.
support.
Yes, thanks everyone.
So if there's any other business at this time? Hearing none, Tony, you can wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, make a motion to close our meeting.
Yep,
I'll second it.
there we have it.
We'll see you on the other side.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we got 20 minutes till.
Yeah,
20
we have
minutes.
the board conference call at 2 to review the October packet. We'll close the line, give everyone a break for 20 minutes, and then we'll talk to you all at 2.